to drop another level now and really hear from practitioners across the country now who are really using those exponential benefit of weaving together sport and mentoring and volunteering. It's so many different combinations of, as they adopt that child-first approach to navigating their way through that intervention with young people. So to host this session over the next 30 minutes, I welcome StreetGames Area Director for the Midlands, Aaron Northmore.
Thank you very much, Graham. Good afternoon, everybody. Nice to see you. What a fantastic morning we've had so far, right from the plenaries and that high-level update of violence reduction through to Neil's what was hugely engaging conversation of the pro-social identity. My role very much today is to try and bring that to life through some of our locally trusted organisations who have a great level of experience and connectivity and a real relatability to their offer. So I'm really pleased to be joined by Dwain from the Argyle Community Trust and also Gemma from Llanrumney Phoenix Boxing Club over in Cardiff, both of which I've got connections to through sort of previous living, not with them, but residing in Cardiff and Plymouth. So really pleased that I can connect with others who have been part of the network for a long time. So Dwain, Gemma, nice to be with you. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Aaron. Hi, guys. You okay?
The purpose of this session, as Graham said, is to try and really relate to the insight that we've heard today. Neil mentioned it earlier on, the importance of that theory of change, and we've spoken about it through earlier sessions. And like StreetGames theory of change around reducing and preventing that risk of serious youth violence promotes the connectivity between sporting activity, mentoring, and volunteering and youth action. And Dwain and Gemma are really going to help us try and bring this to life. So guys, between you, Gemma, maybe you could help kick us off. Just share a little bit about Llanrumney Phoenix. Obviously do some great work over in Cardiff, working with boys, girls of all ages. But can you really help us understand the approach that you guys take to using sport and physical activity to engage that audience?
Yeah, of course. So hi everyone, my name's Gemma. I'm part of the coaching and development team at Llanrumney Phoenix Boxing Club in Cardiff. We are a community-based amateur boxing club. We're also a registered charity, and we do a lot of work just using boxing as the tool of engagement. Kids think boxing's quite cool, so we're able to use that as the pull to get young people in. We work a lot with violence prevention unit in Wales. We work with youth offending. We work with pupil referral units to really reach hard to engage young people and to be able to use boxing as the way of just getting them through the door to be able to work with them. But on the other hand as well, we do a lot of work with children who lack confidence and who are the other end of the scale, who need that kind of boost to make themselves feel a little bit more empowered and a little bit more confident. So yeah, we do a lot of alternative education work. We do a lot of personal development work using the mentoring stuff. And we really do just try our best to help young people to see their potential and to be able to use sport, as a way of turning their life around.
Thank you, Gemma. That's a great insight into the diversity of young people that you see and engage with. To a slightly further southern part of the country, Dwain, do you mind introducing the Argyle Community Trust and I guess the array of opportunities that you have and the approaches you take?
Yeah, sure, no worries at all. Hi, everybody. So I work for the Argyle Community Trust. We are the official charitable partner of Plymouth Argyle Football Club. And we work very hard to kind of overcome a stigma that we're a football in the community trust, which coach and teach football skills and multi-sport skills. We're actually rebranding to be a sport for change charity. And that kind of rebranding strategy has come very much along the lines of some of the more targeted intervention work that we're now delivering. So as a kind of overview of the organisation, we work across different remits: participation, health, well-being, including mental health and disability now, re-entry to employment and engagement for our community engagement team. And then we're now working very much in our kind of inclusion and outreach team as well, where I kind of sit and manage. And I suppose the kind of overarching aims and objectives of that is to work in some of the most kind of deprived, disengaged or at-risk local estates that are in Plymouth. I think sometimes there's a stigma around Plymouth that it sits on the south coast, close to Cornwall, so there's beaches and ports and fish restaurants everywhere. And there's huge affluency, but that's absolutely not the case. There's a number of estates that we operate in Plymouth that are in the kind of top 5% socially deprived in the whole of the UK. And with that, obviously, brings a real wealth of kind of societal issues. And it's our job as the Sport for Change charity to try and address those through using sport, football, and education. More importantly, kind of over the last few years, we've really started to work in this kind of young person mentoring space, and particularly with young people that are kind of identified as being at risk of exclusion or isolation from kind of what we consider to be a mainstream society. So we've always done kind of preventative work, low level, light touch crime intervention work with the youth service and with the local police force. But I suppose over the last couple of years now, we've really kind of ramped up our offer and working with kind of much more targeted young people in a mentor and support point of view, working with partners such as youth offending team and kind of child-centred policing teams that sit within our force. So yeah, we've ramped up the output and really focusing now on supporting the most disengaged and at-risk young people through a kind of multi-sport mentoring and volunteering approach.
Thank you both. I think you've just presented really well the connectivity of yourselves and the local community, and more importantly, the understanding of your community. And I guess I wondered if I could pick up on that with you first, Gem, really. Around you mentioned that you work with some young people who lack confidence, and Neil made a point earlier on around making sure activity was constructive and therefore focused and future orientated. And I guess trying to engage some of those individuals who lack confidence can be quite difficult. How have you used sport and physical activity to engage with those individuals? And I guess considering that futuristic mindset.
We always, I think the way we look at it is the children who act up in school, or the ones who are more challenging, always get the good things. So they get to go to the boxing club, they get to go and do the alternative activity. And we're always concerned about the kids that like that low level, just fall under the radar, that always need that little bit of a boost or just somewhere to go just to make themselves feel a little bit more empowered. So we're really lucky in the position that we're in, that we've got some professional boxers within our gym. So we can call on them they do some kind of like motivational talking to them. They really come alongside them and just show them a bit of belief in themselves. And I think for our young people that do lack confidence, to even step foot into a box, that space where they're able to come in, and it is just getting the gloves on, punching the bags, and really just having a good go. Everyone's frozen.
Great, thanks, Gem. You did break up a little bit there, but I think we got to it. It's right, we got there. Thank you, Dwain. The bit that was really interesting when we spoke previously was around the diversity of that offer, and as you say, trying to break down the stereotype of being just a football organisation. The other piece that Neil touched upon this morning was around that coordinated approach, and I've seen in the chat earlier on around the importance of partnerships. Can you share with us how you've worked with others to really diversify the offer of the Argyle Community Trust, and what impact that has on reaching some of the young people that you're really keen to reach and engage?
For us.
Sorry, Dwain, we can come back to you, Gem.
Yeah, sure. I suppose Gemma mentioned there, I suppose one of the key partnerships we've got is using the asset we've got available. And Gemma mentioned there, you know, a big pool for some of the people that access the gym, the kind of that contact and inspirational talking with professional boxers. And of course, we're quite fortunate with a resource of a full first team squad of professional footballers. So, you know, they're a very viable asset and partnership, and we use those to deliver workshops to young people around health and well-being, nutrition, resilience, fear of failure, coping strategies or pressure, anxieties, those types of things. So they play a really integral part in some of the work that we do with our young people. Similarly, you know, we've probably been, if I'm being completely open and transparent, we've probably been victims in the past, or we've worked kind of in isolations. We've always had a really strong network and partnership with the youth service, and the partnership almost kind of stayed twofold. But because of that, actually, the offer and the quality was only ever as good as two partners could offer. So we've made a really conscious effort of trying to expand that network and engage new partners, StreetGames being one of those. But also, like I said, youth offending teams, local colleges, pupil referral units, local organisations, support services that maybe work with the local authority, really to make sure that the partnerships and the offer, whether that's a sporting offer, a mentoring offer, or a volunteering opportunity, is relevant to the needs. And I suppose just to summarise really quickly, I suppose the most important partnership that we've created is that with the young person. I think in the past, we probably had a pre-prescribed set of sessions that we would deliver, and probably ones that we were quite comfortable and felt safe in delivering. But actually, we've really shifted our focus now to being young person led. And actually, a lot of the time, it's not football sessions. In some cases, it's not even multi-sport sessions. It is focusing quite significantly on that kind of mental well-being, personal advice or support network that they need at this moment in time. So I suppose our most strategic and most successful partner is that of the young people. And I suppose we've adopted a confidence now to allow our sessions to be young person led, and that obviously allows us to hit the needs of people.
What a fantastic way of articulating young people both as the most strategic and operational asset that you guys hold in provisions. Liam, great to see you. Thank you for joining us. Liam is from Parkside High, one of our locally trusted organisations in Derbyshire, and does some great work and has worked really closely with us on the youth engagement funded programme around mentoring. Liam, just picking up on Dwain's point there around a young person as an asset and then driving the style and the type of activity. Can you share some examples whereby young people have helped you design the activities and what those activities have been?
Good day, everybody. Sorry I was a little bit late getting on. I was just finishing up some work from this morning because I've just been on a little bit of leave. But yeah, following on from that and the importance of it being young person led, what sort of Dwain alluded to around some of the more sort of personal social support that these young people need, and it not always necessarily being sort of traditional sports-based activities. But yeah, definitely through the mentoring, we are providing more and more opportunities for the young people to shape their own sessions and their own opportunities, and you know, sort of flex it accordingly, really, trying to put plans in place, but sometimes also trying to be ready and willing to move the sessions into a different direction if that's what the young people are wanting to do. But in addition to running some sports sessions and sports activities, we also do quite a lot of creative activities, and we do graffiti workshops and sort of youth drop-in sessions that are really quite casual and quite easygoing. And we do, I suppose we all hope that we can help to support and guide them young people down a path where they will have more participation in a broader range of activities. But if they're getting the benefit from sort of just coming and hanging out and maybe asking for support or sharing some of their concerns, that's good enough for us as well, really.
Thanks, Liam. I really like the way you phrase things, shaping their own sessions. That comes back to Neil's point around the sort of customised and personal element. Gemma, is that something that you build into some of the mentoring conversations that you have when working with young people? Can you tell us how you do that?
So sometimes as coaches, you think, like Dwain just said it, you think you know what the young people need. And when they come to it and you're just like, oh my gosh, this is like completely not what they need. So for me, I really like to get, if we're going to build a program with them, I really like their input. I like to know what is it they want to get covered? What do they want to get out of it? What do they want to achieve? Because I think I might know what they need to achieve, but when it's coming from them and I know I'm meeting everything that they want to achieve, for me, that's the best way to do it.
Great, thanks, Gemma. And Dwain, we touched upon this before, didn't we, around that role of the mentor, and I guess Neil touched upon it again earlier on around the importance of interactions. What outcomes have you seen as a result of empowering those mentors to support some of those young people that you're working with, often those who may have been referred?
Yeah, I suppose some of the strongest outcomes we've achieved from some of our mentees would be kind of that re-entry into education or into employment. We've got really nice and strong links now with the local kind of vocational colleges, and I suppose one of the aspirations of a lot of young people now, certainly coming off the back of the kind of pandemic, is trying to improve those employability skills and get back into a traineeship, apprenticeship, or into kind of vocational learning. We also have quite a nice and strong pathway and available opportunity for people to volunteer internally as well. And again, as an organisation, we've got quite a dynamic and diverse suite of projects that they can work on. And I suppose there's power in that. I suppose one of the kind of key bits of learnings that we've learned from some local youth voice is that kind of someone like me notion. I think Gemma just mentioned it. Yeah, you know, we probably believe we know what's best in terms of outcomes and input and output and a directional steer to them. But actually, I'm probably, dare I say, kind of 15 or 20 years removed from being A, cool, and B, relevant. So one of the kind of key outcomes for us is to try and get young mentees into young mentors and try and empower them and shift the balance, because this kind of someone like me notion is really powerful for young people. And I suppose just to summarize that point, a lot of young people want to see a familiar face being successful. And I suppose that's one of the biggest incentives and drivers for them, as opposed to me jumping in my own personal journey, which is quite removed from what they've lived and breathed and felt growing up. If you can empower the next kind of wave of community champions as an outcome, the chance of you having a positive impact on these young people are going to be, much more significant.
Absolutely. Yeah, what a great way of putting it. Thank you. Liam, we've obviously been working together on the Youth Endowment Funded Programme that puts mentoring, I guess, at the heart of that relationship. And often mentoring can come on the back of sort of relationships and the trust you build with young people through their attendance at sport. But sometimes the mentoring can be the gateway to further opportunities, can't it? Can you share some examples whereby you've worked with a young person, built trust through mentoring that's helped connect them either into volunteering or into the sporting activities that you deliver?
Yeah, so the mentoring programme, we've had mixed, like varying levels of success. I think we've definitely seen extra challenges with all the lockdowns and kind of the disruption that caused, and we had a short break in the middle of the programme, and I think the young people seem a little bit dispersed, and it's definitely a challenge getting them to attend on a regular basis. But more recently, one of the success stories would be a young person who's gone on to join another mentoring program at the local gymnastics club, and really through some peer leadership opportunities at our project, that they sort of got a real taste for it, and the gymnastics club's got a much bigger squad and a bigger structure around that. And we've all started delivering another mentoring program through the youth allotment that we've got just up the road. And there's some peer leadership opportunities within that as well. And some of the secondary students have been brilliant and really supportive with the primary age group that have been attending. And they've started to come and start attending in the spare time as well, up at the garden, which is brilliant to see.
Great. Young people recruiting and supporting more young people like me, as Dwain puts it. Dwain, if I could just come back to you on those volunteering opportunities, what behavioural changes, what differences have we seen in young people as a result of them taking on that role and that responsibility, but being supported to I guess, elevate themselves and maybe promote or change their perceived identity?
Yeah, I suppose probably the most significant one that we notice now, and whether we attribute this to certain reality TV shows or the social media image and the world that represents now, we have a lot of young people coming to us now with really low self-esteem, self-confidence, and most importantly, a real fear of failure. And I suppose if we just go back to that kind of young person journey, traditionally we would always start with sport to break the ice, and then we would try and introduce them to volunteering or mentoring opportunities. What we're finding now with a lot of young people that are coming to our effectively football club sessions actually don't want to play sport in the first instance, because they just don't have the self-confidence or esteem or resilience, I suppose, to even appear less than good, or dare I say fail. So, a lot of the kind of volunteering work we do and a lot of the kind of soft skill development we work on is that kind of overcoming a fear of failure, or looking silly, as they would put it in youth terminology, or possibly use other language. And we do a lot of development, and we do a lot of tracking using certain toolkits on how we can kind of measure their self-esteem and confidence. And then, of course, we work on some of the wider skills around communication, around resilience, around working collectively. And I suppose in the most extreme cases with some of the young people we work with, certainly those that are probably more targeted in the interventions, structure, routine, consistency, rules, positive choices, just having that consistency and structure to come to a certain session at a certain time that you don't get through school, possibly through family life as well. Whilst it's an outcome that can be very hard to track, it's hugely significant. But I suppose to recap, the most important one for us now is overcoming that kind of fear of failure and being able to give something a go at the expense of getting it wrong.
Thanks, Dwain. And Gemma, really great to see the mental health hub Llanrumney launched earlier on this week. Conversations we had 12 months ago, maybe. Fantastic to see them come into fruition. And I guess you're almost creating a bit of a one-stop shop in the local gym in an area, a part of Cardiff, which is fairly isolated from wider opportunities. Can you help share with us where or how you pull those different elements together? Because boxing is part of the mentoring program, and the mentoring is part of the boxing program, and that emotional health and well-being is very much the piece that wraps it up, isn't it? So whilst we're looking at the theory of change as 3 elements, you really do bring it to life under one roof, don't you?
Yeah, for me, mental health is really, really important. Especially coming out of the lockdown, we had the area that we're based in Cardiff is so high up on the deprivation index. Like, there's nothing in the area. We are the only community-based club that's there, apart from the local football team. We're surrounded by drugs. We're surrounded by knife crime. We're in the middle of a council estate. There's nothing for the kids to do. And we work with some really, really tough kids, but through lockdown, even they were becoming anxious. They were becoming depressed. And that really worried me, because a lot of our kids are quite resilient. They bounce back from so much because there's so much adversity in their lives anyway. So their mental health was really taking a bit of a beating. So we wanted to ensure we had a safe space for them to come. So that's where the idea of the hub came from. So we've got, just to give people an idea of what it is, we bought a shipping container and we've put it in our car park, and we've had it all clad. It's all been decorated. It's got electric in there. It's got a kitchen in there. And it's just a hub where people can come to have a one-to-one session. We've got counsellors coming in on boards to do counselling sessions. You can run workshops from there, but it's outside of the boxing club. So sometimes to step foot into the boxing club is quite an intimidating environment. So that can kind of be an easier way in. So somebody can come to the building, not actually have to go into the building, get to know us, get to know our coaches, get to know our staff, and then progress into the gym to follow on to the other side of the program. So it's a learning curve for us. It's all quite new, but it's quite an exciting and much needed. We do a lot of work, as I was listening to Dwain then, we do a lot of work with homeless people, and they're 16 to 24. And we've been using some of the mentoring stuff with them, and they've come to the end of their program with us now. And some of them have secured job interviews, and some of them have secured accommodation that's permanent for them. And some have engaged with other services that have been trying to engage with them for so long, because they felt a part of something. They felt valued and they felt like they belong. And for me, that says it all. That says that we're doing a good enough job.
And have you heard their terminology and their language change? Neil touched upon it earlier on, didn't he, around how young people identify with themselves. Have you identified that particularly vulnerable cohort, I guess, talk about themselves?
They feel a part of a community. And by feeling a part of a community, they've engaged with other people who have been trying to engage with them for so long, but they were quite shut off. They were quite reserved. They didn't want anything to do with it. They've now opened up, and because they feel valued and they feel really good about themselves, because they come in, they're training, we're looking after them mentally, we're looking after them physically. They've really, really come on so much in the weeks that we've had them.
That's amazing. Great to hear. Liam, as part of your sessions, I guess, how do you and your coaches, your youth workers, your support staff really try to build in that promotion of positivity, building on young people's strengths? How does that fall part of either the mentoring opportunities, the work up at the garden, or part of the sports activity?
Yeah, I think it's transferable across the different activities that we do. We're always trying to instill positivity in the young people, trying to encourage them to take part, to put in a decent level of effort, because they're only going to get out of it what they put in. But I think it's fair to say, definitely, especially with the upheaval and the disruption that the pandemic has caused, there is a lack of motivation. There is a bit more indifference, I think, with these young people, and we are trying to find new and more creative ways of tapping into that inner potential and trying to hopefully inspire them. But so yeah, we're perhaps having to be a little bit more flexible, and maybe sometimes a bit more relaxed in our approach to things. But we're definitely starting to see just in the last few weeks where we've been able to start doing more and the restrictions are starting to ease, we're definitely starting to find that a bit easier to do, and you know, it's kind of a bit more obvious and normal ways to do that.
Great, thanks, Liam. Dwain, as we sort of aim to draw this session to a close, obviously a huge amount of activity that goes on around the Southwest, targeted interventions, different activities, different partnerships, mentoring, volunteering, sport, all included in the array of activity provided by yourselves. What's one thing that you think colleagues in other organisations across the country could learn from in terms of the approach of the Argyle Trust, particularly how you utilise sport, mentoring and volunteering to engage and, more importantly, further the young people that you work with?
Yeah, sure. I think I mentioned it, but and again, just to absolutely reiterate, it's that young person led, young person centered approach to the planning, delivery, and evaluation of the project. It's about allowing them to pick their own journey, and that might be wanting to partake in a boxercise session or a dance session by week 10 or 12. But actually, they're just coming through the door for a cup of tea and a biscuit for the first 9 weeks. It's about not rushing it. It's about not trying to work to your own agenda or possibly your wider business KPIs, and ensuring that this young person isn't just another participant. You know, these are people on some quite specific, targeted, bespoke mentor intervention programs. And I suppose it's having the confidence and competencies as a staff team to allow that flexibility and ownership, and that compassion and connection with young people and understanding of their needs to allow them to map out their own journey. And I suppose, without trying to sound too cliche, it's about allowing them to reach their own outcomes or their own outputs or their own impact, not the ones that you want to prove to your strategy or to your own theory of change or to your funders' requirements. Actually, when you're working with these types of young people, if they enter the theory of change at volunteering, mentoring and sport, or come in at sport and volunteering, but mentoring doesn't work for them, it's about allowing these people to kind of map their own journey, enjoy their experience, because it may well be the only positive experience and positive person that they meet all week. And I think we just need to be mindful that we can say something is young person led, but actually it needs to be completely open and transparent to allow them to be able to get their own success, irrespective of what your monitoring evaluation requirements are. Actually, this is about being completely child-centered.
Amazing, thank you, Dwain. Gemma, one tip from you around making that activity, whether it's sport, mentoring or volunteering, youth-led. What's one thing you do at Llanrumney to make sure that that is instilled across everything that you do?
It is like Dwain said, it's getting their input. I'm the same as Dwain. I'm so far removed from young people. I've got 2 teenage daughters and they say words and I'm just like, what is that? And you kind of got to just learn about them, understand them, because the way they talk, the way they speak is so different to what we do. But giving them that voice and letting them know that they're listened to, I think for us is the biggest part, because once they know that you're on side and you're listening to them, they're willing to work with you.
Absolutely, and it takes time, doesn't it? Liam, any final thoughts from you around a key lesson that you've picked up whilst working with young people for however many years, and I guess growing your offer in and around that sort of district level of Derbyshire?
Yeah, definitely. To follow on from what Dwain and Gemma said, it's keep listening to the young people, keep making sure their voice is heard, and I think sort of sharing that voice as well through the project with other services and with the local authority, and perhaps we're us as an organisation, an independent organisation in the third sector. I think we don't work within such sort of institutional constraints. We do have them freedoms. We do have that flexibility. So make sure that we on behalf of them young people, really, that we carry that message into the local authority and into some of the more sort of rigid structures that exist around supporting them young people to hopefully keep making some positive change, really.
Great stuff. What a way to end. Karen, we've got 3 hugely trusted local organisations, coaches, role models. We picked up on the importance of interaction earlier on today. Everything that's come through has been youth driven, and I guess that youth voice and the choice element creates diversity, doesn't it? And we know that there's diversity in mentoring programs and volunteering, whether that's formal or informal. I'm hoping you're going to be able to share with colleagues on the call what we mean by mentoring and volunteering and the differences and how we can be most effective with that.
Absolutely, because I think that what great examples and really inspirational as well. I was like just sitting here going, oh, wow, that sounds just sounds amazing. You know, it's just like how lucky your young people are to have your projects in their communities. That's what I would say, because not all communities have projects with the funding and the resource. Some communities, you know, still don't have projects. You know, it's like rolling it out. So yeah, thinking about then volunteering, mentoring, and perhaps even actually sport, you know, because pulling out what you know, what everybody's been saying this morning, you know, it's like it's sport that suits the young person. So we're talking about individual sports, we're talking about team sports, indoor, outdoor sports, and we're talking about sport at the level of a young person and based around fun and engagement, so that it isn't scary or intimidating, and that's why that combination is so powerful together of a sport, volunteering and mentoring, because you know, as Gemma was saying, you know, that not everybody feels confident enough to come through the door for boxing straight away. But I think the combination of a sport, volunteering and mentoring can be so powerful. And when we're talking about volunteering, I think that, you know, we need to look at it really broadly for the young person. So it can be really informal. It doesn't need to be formal. It can just be helping out and very small little things, small little tasks. And it can be in the context of supporting a sports session taking place. It can be like at your project itself, like doing DIY, helping to build, I don't know, like a reception desk, shelves, repair things, you know, to like paint things, you know, just that being involved in that in the project is valuable. And then we've got the social action style volunteering as well, which is, you know, going out into the community and doing things like, you know, we've got examples of like up north where they've been delivering food parcels and setting up a food bank. And that kind of thing is really important for a young person, because that does, as you know, our speakers have said, it makes young people feel that they belong to the community. And those social networks for young people we know are really important, and they need those in the community and also outside their community. And all the confidence, all the things that gives them is really important. So sports activities, very broad, informal, fun. Volunteering, also informal, formal, however it needs to be, very flexible. Mentoring, I think, is a specific thing that needs a lot of thought. And I think there's a kind of spectrum of mentoring, which is like role modeling and support, which is fine from young people to young people, peer mentoring. But when we get to working with young people with much more complex, challenging needs, then our research suggests that needs to be experienced adults who need training and need support structures behind them. It's not appropriate for young people to be supporting other young people who have experienced ACEs, for example, and dealing with trauma, abuse, neglect. It's not appropriate. There is the risk that that experience can harm not just the young person mentoring that young person, but also that young person being mentored. So in that kind of context, you need experienced adults. So I think there needs to be quite a lot of thought and consideration about what you mean by mentoring, what kind of mentoring, whether you actually mean role modeling, whether you mean befriending, or whether you need to think about adult-based, experienced, the right kind of person for a mentor who can be exceptionally important for that young person. And they need to be able to do that role very carefully. It's a hugely expert job and not everybody can do it. And it isn't necessarily something that you think that a coach is not always the right person to be a mentor. So I think it needs a lot of thought. But I think the combination of taking part in sport, volunteering, mentoring, having that flexible journey is absolutely hitting the spot for those young people on their journey to a pro-social identity. So many positive things come out of it. So yeah, great to hear about, you know, all the work that's being done today. Yes, so much potential for young people.
Thanks very much, Karen. Thank you, Aaron, and special grateful thanks to Dwain, to Gemma and Liam for really bringing your whole delivering practice to life and sharing examples from up and down the country. We've talked a lot across this conference around this child first pro-social identity journey and the contribution that well-designed sport with the right young people and the activities we deliver around sport mentoring and volunteering absolutely contributes towards that pro-social identity.